Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much, Jed. And thank you, Zen Sangam, for having me here today. So we'll be beginning with the gauche session today. So before beginning, I'll guide you through some basic details. If you do not have gouache colors for today, you can surely go ahead with poster colors. You can even use acrylics if you want, but the way of using acrylics will be a little different than what when it comes to gouache. So today I will be focusing on gouache, and poster colors work perfectly like gouache. So if you do not have gouache colors, you can surely go ahead with poster colors. Before beginning, let me show you Okay, let me show you the gouache papers that are newly launched by Zen Sangam. So this is their newly launched gouache paper. This is 300 GSM and it comes in a pack of 24 sheets and it's a glued pad. So you can remove the sheets as you want. It also comes in bigger sizes. So this is an A4 size. This is an A5 size. It also comes in square sizes. They are all available on Amazon. So you can surely shop them from there. They also have some watercolor sketchbooks, 50% cotton. So if you are someone who's just beginning with watercolors, then this is perfect because it can handle around 1 to 2 layers of watercolors very easily, and it's quite cost effective. Plus the quality of paper is quite good. I use this book itself for my gouache, patterns also, and it works perfectly for gouache as well as watercolors. This also comes in different sizes. All of them are available on Amazon. So this is their square size. This is the A6 size. And these are the exclusive gouache papers newly launched by Zen Sangam. So I'll just give you a quick look of what we'll be painting today. So this is the abstract landscape that we will be painting today at the end of this session, after we understand all the basics about gouache and everything about this medium. So I have done this on this 300 GSM sketchpad, and you can even, at the end, if you want, you can easily remove this sheet from the gouache pad and use it separately because it's perfectly glued here. So it's easily removable and quite good enough if you are someone who, wishes to maintain it in a book format also. But if you want to sell it ahead, then it's easily detachable and a good to go sketch pad. I created some mini artworks, some abstract artworks onto these same papers. So I used this A4 sheet and I cut it into small A6 size and I have painted these. So now we'll begin with our session for today. So the first thing that I will begin with is some basics about gouache, understanding the medium, what this medium actually is. So just quickly drop into the chat box, how many of you are completely new to this medium, or you have never heard about it or used it? Okay. Okay. Mostly all of you are saying you guys are completely new to this medium. So we'll begin with the medium first. So I'll teach you everything about this medium, the basics of this medium. So today I'm using this gouache set. This is from the brand Neva Palette. Okay, this comes in jars. Each jar is of 20 ml. Gouache colors comes in tubes also. There are various brands ranging from whatever range you want. So Brustro, Winsor Newton, Sennelier. There are many brands and all of them range differently. And this is in jar form. So you can easily remove the paint how much ever you want. And you can again just close the lid and save it. I use this palette. This is an airtight palette. So basically, the paints in this do not dry too quickly and they stay safe to use it ahead. So let's begin with understanding this medium. So I'll begin with this shade of Madar Lake Red from my set, and we'll begin to understand the properties about this medium. I'm first removing a little of this paint onto my palette. Now, the first and the foremost important thing about understanding gouache is understanding its consistency, because if you do not have the right consistency, it will not flow freely and it will not give you the perfect, smoothness or the chalky effect that it should give you. So now I have just picked up the paint from my bottle, and I'll try to directly swatch it and look how it comes. So this paint is in the perfect consistency, even in the jar. Can you see the liquid? That's the binder that they use for this paint. Okay, if it's visible. So because of that, the paint is in the perfect consistency right now. Let me try with another color, which is actually a little dry, so you can understand. I'm picking up this violet light color. Can you see the liquid in this is dried as compared to what is in this? Okay, so now I'll try to pick up this color directly from the bottle, and I'll try to swatch this color. Can you see I'm unable to get a clean or smooth consistency as I got for this one? The reason being the color is not in its right consistency to be used, directly for blending or for even applying the base layers. So the first and the foremost important thing about beginning with gouache is understanding the consistency of gouache. So if ever you do not have the right consistency, what you do is you add in a few drops of water to your paint and try to run it well with your brush. I usually use a palette knife for blending my color. So what I usually do is I pick up the paint, and then with the help of my palette knife, I try to smoothen the color and get it into its perfect consistency, that creamy texture. So earlier also, it was not this creamy how it is right now after blending. Now, if I again, you can see such a clean blend. It's even better than this one, because you can see here the color tone lighter somewhere, but here I have got the same color consistency throughout. Okay, and it can go up till layers. So this is the perfect consistency for gouache, which is the first and the foremost important thing to understand. Because if you do not have the right consistency, your paints will not flow and will not give you that creamy, chalky look. And they will even dry unevenly if your paints are not evenly mixed up. The second thing to understand with gouache is the blending techniques. So we'll use three types of blending techniques to understand how you can go ahead with blending. I will use two color mixes, which is a shade of yellow and a shade of red, to depict the three different color blending techniques that are possible, or the techniques that actually I use for my paintings. So I'll just remove some of the colors onto my palette. And if you are following along, I would recommend all of you to try these techniques along with me, because these will help you a lot in understanding the medium. And until you do not pick up your own brush and give it an own try, you will not get the hang of the medium or what I'm trying to explain it out to you. So I have both the colors onto my palette. I'll quickly drop in a few drops of water and try to get a smooth, even consistency of both the paints. So I have got a proper consistency of both the paints. Now I'll begin with the first kind of blending. So first I'll pick up this red color. This is almost an orangish shade. And I have laid down this color. Now leaving a very small gap, I will lay down the yellow color. Now the first way of blending is depending on which color tone you want over which. So say for this one, I want the red tone, that is the orangish tone, onto my yellow color. So again, I'll begin from the red color and I'll go to the yellow color and try to blend in these two colors. But here you can see the orange color has been laid over the yellow color. So depending on the color that you want above which color, you choose your side of blending. So say if you needed the yellow color onto the orange, you would have begin from the bottom. So that's the second kind of blending. So again, I'll lay down both the layers of color. The blending technique for poster colors will be exactly the same, but for acrylic, it will be different because acrylics dry quickly and these medium can be reactivated. So this medium is actually more of watercolors, and it's acrylic medium in the way that it's opaque. So now this time I want my yellow color onto the red tone. So I'll begin blending from the bottom and move upwards. So you can see this time the yellow color is retained and there is a little yellow touch onto the orange, whereas here the orange color was retained and we had an orange touch onto the yellow color. So these are the first two types of blending without using white gouache. If, depending on which color you want to overpower onto the other color. The third and the mostly used kind of technique is using the white gouache. So I'll quickly have some white gouache ready before beginning this one. So right now in both the ways, we had been using the same colors for blending, but this time to blend, we will be using white gouache. So I'll lay down a layer of orange color again. Remember, if you add too much water into your gouache paints, they will, flow smoothly, but they will begin to act as watercolors. So if you want them to stay opaque, you need to even control the water input that you're putting into these colors so that they don't act as watercolors. Now, in between these two gaps that I've left, I'll pick up some white gouache and I'll lay down a layer of white gouache first. Okay, now you see the paints are looking just in one, layers put up into some lines, which we don't want. So to have a clean blend, you can begin from either side that you want. And I'll begin from the top. And you can see I'm getting a transition from the yellow to the orange, or to the yellow, from the yellow to the orange, or orange to the yellow. And in between, I've got a gradient color, which is I go from the orange to the light orange to the light yellow and then the main yellow. Now in this also, you can choose from which end you want to begin blending. That's either from the top or from the bottom. But here you get a gradient in between like this, which is not there in both these style of blending here. So this is about how you blend in gouache. You can either use 2 colors, 3 colors. Maybe if you want to add the same color here at the top, you can blend that also. And even between 3 to 4 layers, if you wish, between every layer, you can use white for a gradient. I hope this was understood by all of you. If any of you have any basic query about the blending here, you can quickly drop it into the chat section so that you do not get confused later on about it. What is gouache? Gouache is like poster colors. It's just basically premium poster colors. It's just basically premium poster colors actually. And you can see they are actually thick in consistency as compared to watercolors. And these are actually a mix of acrylics and watercolors. So they have the opaque look like acrylics, and they can be reactivated with water like watercolors. Acrylics cannot be reactivated once they dry, but say if I want to reactivate this pink layer again, if I just use water and apply it here with my brush, this layer is reactivated. Can you see? I was able to pick up some paint again. So the layer can be reactivated. You can easily correct your errors. Yes, you can reactivate your poster colors also. How you made whitewash. So I had kept a gap between both the colors, and in between I used in whitewash, and then I blended from either the top or the bottom, whichever direction you are comfortable, or which color you want to overrule over which. Okay, so these were the basic queries. Now we'll move ahead with some other techniques concerned with gouache. Since gouache is an opaque medium, you can very easily, lay down darker colors onto the light colors and even light colors onto the dark colors, which is not possible with watercolors. So I'll try to depict what I'm trying to say with the help of watercolors so that you get a clear picture and understanding. I'll quickly just, drop some layer of watercolors. Whichever color you wish, you can pick up any color. So I'll pick up the combination of yellow and blue this time. And I'll just lay down some blue color. So this is blue watercolor that I have laid down here. And now I will lay down some yellow watercolor. Now I'll wait for these two layers to dry. Then we'll begin with the detailed understanding. Till then, I will even lay down the layer of both the colors in gouache medium so that we can understand the difference between layering in watercolors and layering in gouache. So quickly, just a small layer of yellow color. And I'll lay down the last layer of blue color here. Now, layering in gouache is easier as compared to watercolors because since gouache is a opaque medium, you can even layer down the lighter colors on the darker tones, which is not possible when it comes to watercolors. But when it comes to gouache, it's very easy. Till these layers dry, I will help you understand when you should do the right layering. So I'll quickly apply one layer of the same Medar Lake red color. Now this layer is wet. Onto this wet layer only, I'll try to quickly add in some layering with a different color. I'm picking up some green color, which is readily onto my palette already. And while this layer is wet, I'm trying to do some layering. Can you see the paints are dispersing? The paints are dispersing and they are not retaining their shape, and it's spreading into the background and not giving you a definite look. Can you see it? So when you are trying to do layering with gouache and you want a clean layer, you always have to wait for your first layer to dry completely. Only then.
Dola. Dola.
I guess someone's mic is on. Could you mute yourself? Okay, I'm so sorry. So when it comes to layering, you need to wait for your base layer to, which is completely dried and with the same color. Can you see? I'm able to retain the shape. I'm getting such a definite shape, and the colors are not spreading into the background, nor is it activating with the base layer and mixing and forming the color. So it's retaining its look. It's giving me that opaque look of the green color that I want. And despite the first layer being such a dark color and the green color being so light, I'm able to see the green color in its actual color that I have applied, and it's not losing its color just because, sorry, just because it's a light color on the dark one. Now, that's the difference that we'll understand with these two color charts that we have laid down here. So I'll again shift to my watercolor and first show you the layering in watercolor. So now onto the blue that I laid, I'll give in some layering of the yellow color. So this was the yellow color that I used. And now onto the yellow color, I'll give in layering of the blue color. So in watercolors, when this will dry, okay, the light color will not retain its look and it will get blended with the background, because of which you will not have an opaque look, whereas the dark color onto the light background will still retain its look because it's a darker color on the lighter tone. But when it comes to gouache, it's perfectly okay to even, lay down the lighter color on the darker tones. So I'll pick up some yellow color again and I'll give it onto this blue color. Can you see it's retaining its color despite being a lighter color on the darker tone, and now a darker color on the lighter. So that's the difference here. If you see, as it is beginning to dry, it's merging with the background and turning lighter. And when it will dry completely, the lighter color will not retain its property and will not have the same look. Whereas here and here, if you see, both the places, the lighter color on the darker tones will retain its look and will be opaque. So that's the other beneficial property about gouache, that layering is easy because you can easily lay down the darker layers on the lighter tones also, and the lighter tones on the darker tones. So these were some of the very basics about gouache to understand to begin with this medium. So if any of you have questions still here, drop it quickly so that I can help you understand it and then move ahead. What is the difference between poster colors and gouache? Basically, poster colors and gouache are both the same kind of a medium, but just that gouache is, it's actually called as premium poster colors because it's more chalky and quality of the paints are a little different because of the binders used. So that's the difference, because poster colors are majorly used by students a lot, and gouache is a little artistic variant of the poster colors. Yes, you need to wait for the first layer to dry, and it depends. If you're using the layering technique and you want some opaque look, then you need to wait. But here we were trying to blend in, so we did not have to wait for the any color to dry to blend in. We could directly use the technique and blend it, and even if the layer had dried, we could re-wet it and blend it. But if you want a crystal clear opaque layering, then you need to wait for your first layer to dry, or else it will begin to be messy like this. Any other questions about this medium or any of the techniques till so far, whatever we have discussed? Okay, so I'll begin with the next few techniques. So since we understood that it's easy to do the layering technique when it comes to gouache, there are again two ways of, going ahead with layering in gouache. It's either you can leave it, we will be painting. Let's have a look at that. So this is the final artwork that we will be painting. So for painting these, there are two ways. Nandita, you can use watercolor papers also, but for gouache, you can even go ahead with a paper which is not 100% cotton or even 20% cotton, because for gouache, you do not require cotton base. So these papers by Zen Sangam are exclusively for gouache, and you can even use it for watercolors because they are 300 GSM and acid-free cold pressed paper. So these paper have a texture good for watercolors also, light watercolors, and they are perfect for gouache because it does not even buckle up the paper. You can see the painting that I've done. The paper is not buckled up. There is no leakage on the backside either. Okay. So for this painting I was talking, you can use two ways. You either paint, layer on layer. So, first I paint the entire page with this color, then just a small part, or maybe this with gouache, it's colors on the darker tones. And the other way is you paint by section, or leaving the white gap things. So I'll just quickly do a small study so that you guys can understand what I mean by layering or either leaving the white spaces. So I am quickly picking up a pastel tone of red color, which is there onto my palette. So I'll quickly paint a small block. Now, wherever you feel that your brush is not running smoothly, and if you feel the paint is enough on the paper, you can use a damp brush to spread the color or pick up fresh color to spread it well. Sorry. So I have added a small block of this color. And now on the other side, I'll quickly do a small pencil sketch. Okay, now this block we painted first with a complete base layer, and in this one I will begin to leave the gaps which are to be painted with other color blank, and I will directly paint it with those colors. So onto this block here at the top area, I'll just give in a layer of this color which is supposed to be here. If you get friendly with this medium, trust me, this is the best medium to work with because it's a lot forgiving. You make mistakes, you can correct it easily. You can re-wet it, which is not possible with acrylics. And with watercolors, it's very difficult to correct your mistakes. So that is why, if you're beginning your journey, then this is a good medium to go ahead with. Now, for this one, to begin the layering, I need to wait for the layers to dry completely. But here, I do not have to wait for this layer to dry because I am going to be painting onto these gaps which are white. So I'll just randomly pick up the colors right now, which are, ready onto my palette. It's very important to have the right consistency. So if onto your palette, the paints have dried, you can easily reactivate them by adding in a few drops of water and blending them again. But make sure you do not add so much water while blending or reactivating them that they lose their opaqueness. So here you can see my colors are still opaque because there was a lot of color. So using this white space technique, you can see I'm easily able to continue painting before waiting for that first layer to dry. And I'm able to add in the darker tones beside the lighter tone easily. And the paints are not spreading into each other, which will not be the case if you do the same with watercolors. Because in watercolors, the paints will spread if you do not wait for, say if it was with watercolors and this layer was not dried and I painted this, both the colors would have merged and would have given you a very messy edge here at the corner. So I painted one layer. Now I can quickly shift to the other color also. In this one, can you see how much time I have to wait for the layer to dry? So when in cases it's possible for you to actually use this technique, that is the layers are so distinctively laid down that you can easily paint them in blocks, then always go ahead with this technique. And when you're painting some landscape kind of a thing which is not abstract or very regular kind of landscapes, then this is the technique which will be very helpful, because in that cases leaving very small white gaps and trying to get good blends becomes very difficult. And that's when the property of gouache of layering colors comes to use. So you can see I do not have to wait for any layer to dry here. I'm just applying the colors very smoothly onto the layer where they're supposed to be. I'm getting a clean blend between all because my colors are in the right consistency that they should be. That's the most important thing when it comes to gouache, because if you do not have the right consistency, the paints will even not dry evenly. Now the last layer I'll apply with a grayish tone. You can see the above layer is still wet and I am very freely able to apply the next layer without waiting for it to dry. There, I'm done with the second part. So that was, I did not have to wait for anything to dry. I could quickly complete the entire part. But for this one, now the layers are almost dried. So I'll quickly give in the rough pencil sketch. So I'll first mark this mountain range. Now onto this entire area, I'll apply the brown color that we applied here. So with this layering technique, you need to wait for the base layers to dry completely before moving ahead. Otherwise, the layers will again, blend into each other and not give you an opaque look. Be very careful that when you are adding layering, you do not add too much pressure to your brush, because if too much pressure is also added, it will reactivate the base layer, because these are water soluble and they get reactivated with water. Now in this type, I'll have to wait for this layer also to dry again before moving ahead to the next layer. So you can see, using either of the technique, both the brown color are retaining its same color look. This was onto the pink I applied this tone, and this was onto the white I applied the tone. But still, both the colors are there. So it's just the difference in technique that we use. But here in this case, you need to wait for the first layer to dry, because if it was not dried and I applied this brown color, it would not have got this opaque look and this sharp edge. It would have blended with the background. Now again, for adding this lighter tone also onto these darker color, I will have to wait for this to dry completely, only then add the next layer. Till then, I can quickly take up some queries if you have, because after this, we'll be beginning with our artwork and we will be painting this abstract landscape together. Okay, and I will be using this second technique so that we do not waste time onto waiting for the layers to dry also. So any queries if you have till then, quickly drop in so we can keep solving as we move ahead. Which of the both process is better? See, as I said, if you're painting abstract landscapes wherein you can easily, leave in the white spaces and paint, then go ahead with this. But when you paint something like these, okay, it's very difficult to leave gaps in between. So say if I was painting this, it's very difficult for me to, leave a little space for the yellow separately or black separately. So in these cases, I do not leave any white spaces. I do the layering technique and add in. So basically, while painting landscapes, it's better like these kind of landscapes. So here also I've used the layering technique, which is this technique. So when you paint such landscapes, it's always better to go ahead with layering. And if you are painting abstract and you can easily leave in those white gaps, then go ahead with this technique, because it's faster and it's easier also. And here you just have to be a little careful about the consistency, the pressure on the brush, the right time of applying the paint. Color blending techniques for poster color, the process will be the same. Yes, the process will be exactly the same. It will again be those three kinds only, which color you want to overpower onto which color. Or if you want a gradient wash, you go ahead with the white wash in between or white poster color in between. So any more queries? So for this one, I had used in this technique because it was very difficult to leave in these small gaps white and paint the light gray tone in between. So I had used this layer of technique wherein I gave in first an entire layer of this color, and then I added this with the opaque color look. And this one I painted with this second technique. So the background I painted in parts, and the top green leaves, I used the first technique, that's the layering technique again. So it's always a mix and match of both techniques, depending how you can make it easier for yourself, or rather what's easily working for you and what you are comfortable with. I have a complete 15 days beginner friendly gouache class on Skillshare, where I discuss all of these paintings in detail that I just showed you. Almost 15 paintings we have done there. It's a 15 days gouache challenge, and you can get to learn all of these paintings step by step, the color combinations, blending, layering, adding these clouds, learning the pine trees, everything in detail. And you can access it for free for 30 days using my link. And all of it is on my Instagram handle bio. So you can easily use the links there and join me. Okay, so this layer is almost about to dry. So I'll quickly prepare the next color. And after this, we begin with our final project for today. So for the final project also, I will be using both the techniques that we are learning right now, because some small plants or the cactus that we have painted in that one, it was very difficult to leave those white caps. So that is the layering technique I've used there. And while painting the mountain range, I have used in, so this is still a little wet, but I'll purposely paint it when it is wet to show you how the paints react. Can you see, since it was wet, the brown color is getting lifted again and mixing with this lighter shade of the raw sienna color. Can you see? I'm unable to get a clean look like this color, and it's not retaining its color. So that is why in this layering technique, it's very important for you to keep waiting for layers to dry. And to speed up the process, you can always use a hair dryer to dry. And that's what I majorly do when I'm painting such quick layers on layers when it comes to either watercolors or gouache. It's best to use hair dryer and, fasten up the process. So we are done with all the basics that you need to understand this medium gouache and to, easily complete today's class project. So let me know if you have any queries, or then we begin our final painting for today. Okay, if you are ready to paint along with me today's final painting, give me a thumbs up into the chat section so that I know how many of you are painting along with me. Okay, I've only received one thumbs up. So others, you guys are not painting along with us. So as I said, it's easily detachable from the pad, and I have the smooth pad here again. Oh, good. Many of you guys are painting along with us. So let's begin painting. You can go ahead and use any sheet which is at least 200 GSM and above cotton. It's perfectly okay if it's not cotton paper. So I'll first begin taping my paper on all the 4 edges. I'm using a normal masking tape. This is 1/2 inch masking tape. If you are someone who does not want clean edges, then you can skip this step, but applying a masking tape really helps to protect the other papers in the pad, and it gives a clean look to your painting at the end. If you are using a loose sheet, so you could tape down your paper onto any surface, or maybe you could tape it down onto your table directly, because we are not going to be moving this pad in any direction either ways. But I always prefer taping it down on a surface which is separate from the table. I either use a cardboard or a canvas board, so that even if I want to just turn it around, it becomes easier and it's accessible that way. So I'm done taping down on all the 4 edges. Now I'll quickly break down the composition first. We'll do the pencil sketch, and then we'll begin forming the shades onto our palette. So first, I'll mark down this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mountain ranges that we have. Okay. And these addition plants that are there, these I will not be marking because these I will directly be adding with the paints using this layering technique. So that's what I said when I said I will be using both these techniques. For adding these plants, I'll be using this technique. For adding the mountain range, I'll be using this technique so that it becomes easier and we do not have to keep waiting again and again. Now, almost a little below the center, somewhere here at around 55% from the top, I'll mark my first mountain range. A very rough mountain range. Now, underneath this, I'll add another mountain range. Now, I'll first mark the third mountain range. Okay. Now, between these two lines that I have added, I'll add the fourth mountain range here. And the remaining two here at the bottom. You can surely change the mountain range shapes as in how you want to alter. It's not necessary to have the same curvy motions as mine, and it will surely not be possible to have the same motion because if you see in both my paintings here, the strokes are a little different, and that's perfectly okay to go ahead with. Let yourself free and paint, with a free mind rather than going in for perfection or the same thing exactly to be exactly like this. Now, this moon out here, I'm not marking it right now because I will mark it after I paint the base layer. Because if I leave a moon circle here, I will be very, restricted while painting this background. And I don't want that to happen. And since it's a very small moon, I can easily paint it layer over after painting the background. Now, I'll begin with the color mixing first. So colors one by one base color that I'm using here, I will try to darken that by just adding one shade other color to that. So for the first one, I will be using I'll just clean this palette knife to blend the colors. So to get a flesh tint, I will be mixing these three colors together. If you readily have a flesh tint color, you can mix in a little bit of white to that and use that color. But in this set, I don't have it and I have it in the other set. But I want to show it as a color mixing so that those of you who do not have it can easily mix the color. So I've hardly picked up very small teeny mini bits of the yellow color and the red color. And now I will pick up the white color. A lot of white actually. Okay, and now I will blend all these three colors together. Okay, this is still a lot dark. I still need a little bit more of the white to this. So I'll just add in some white from the tube now. So when it comes to poster colors or gouache, you need white in excess because to get different tonal variations or for blending purposes, and your white gets used up so quickly that you do not even realize when it's just over. So I always have like 3 to 4 bottles of white in stock with me. So I'm leaving this darker tone a bit here because I need that for the next layer. So rather than, making everything light, I'm just making it light on one edge. You can see I have got such a clean blend. I mixed in a lot of white and very small tints of yellow and the red color. So if you do not have the same shades, you can use lemon yellow or any lighter yellow color. And for the red tone, you can use any tone of orange or a lighter red. If you're using any darker tone of red, use it in very less consistency than what you used in here. Okay, so my first layer color mix is ready. Now I'll begin painting with this color mix now. So I'll pick up my flat brush and I'll use my Camlin Synthetic size 7 flat brush. You can use a bigger brush also, but I'll go ahead with the smaller brush only. Always with your brush also check whether the paint is spreading smoothly and whether it's in the right consistency, because at times you may feel that it is in the right consistency, but for the brush it's not, and that will affect your spreading again. Okay, now I have got the perfect light tone and I'll begin spreading this onto this entire top area. You see how smoothly my paint is spreading, and I do not have to worry much about spreading it. It's always important to understand that if you even have a limited color palette, you can easily form all the different tones and easily create, without worrying that if you do not have a particular shade, how will you go ahead with the painting? You always have two options, either create the color or change the color. But leaving a painting just because of the color shade is never an option that I consider it right. So even if you run a little into the lower mountain ranges, do not worry. It can be easily covered up with the darker tone or the lighter tone. But very easily, I'm able to move my brush and get a clean, line here at the marking that I've given. And I have a clean, smooth blend. My first layer is ready. Now for the next color, the color mix is already ready, which was with not too much of white that I had. So I'm just getting the right consistency because this feels a little too thick to spread evenly. And you can either use a very small size flat brush to paint these smaller areas, or you could use a round brush and, paint this, whichever way you are comfortable with or your hand moves freely. I prefer adding the edges near to this with a round brush because I can get more precision over the flow of the paints, and it becomes difficult in a flat brush because of the, top being a little broader. It is difficult to control the paint spreading then. which is easily controllable with the help of a round brush. Now into this entire mountain range, I'll paint this darker flesh tint tone that we had earlier. Always make sure that you have enough color prepared before beginning to paint in that particular area. Because say if in middle you are, used up onto the color, and if you again sit to prepare the color mix, it may vary a little even because of a little proportion change. And that happens because we are not using any measurement tools to actually add the color. So it's always important to prepare a little extra color rather than fall short, because these paints can be reused very easily. So very easily, even with the round brush, you can see I was able to get such a clean edge and clean blend. Now just at the top, I'll give in a good finishing line. Now for the next color, to this same color mix that we have, I will be adding a little bit of the burnt umber color. You do not have burnt umber, don't worry. You can easily add in any darker brown color, or you could add in a little bit of burnt sienna and go ahead with that shade. So to the same flesh tint mix that I had made, I just added in a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'm trying to blend in the color well. Sorry, the burnt umber color. You see this chocolatey brown color that is formed. Range, the third range, I'll apply this color. I would always say, if you are a beginner, the first and the foremost important thing to invest in is your papers. The second I would recommend is brushes, and third would be paints. Paints and brushes are actually, equal for me, but after understanding and using good quality brushes, I can completely understand what difference it makes to your painting, how it distinguishes your process completely, and also it makes your experience with painting completely different, and even your time consumption changes a lot. But first and foremost important is the papers, because if you do not have the right quality papers, you will not get the effect, and that's a big, big, big demotivation to continue ahead. And I have myself faced that, so I can say it with experience. I know we always think that they are so costly. How should we go ahead? And it's not, what if we do not continue ahead, then what? But if you really want to even have an experience with painting, then right quality papers are the most important thing. And for gouache, these papers have been perfect. Now I'll shift to the. Can you suggest some good quality brands for brushes? If you want to go ahead for watercolors, my best pick till date, and they are, I guess, most of the artists' favorite, they are these silver black velvet brushes. They are a little costly. You can invest them one by one. The best size to go with or begin with is size 4 and then size 8. Somebody's audio is on and it's a lot disturbing. Hi. whoever audio is on, could you just mute it because it's a lot disturbing in between? Okay. So I was talking about the brushes. When it comes to watercolors, these have been the best investment and the best brushes I've used so far. And I would recommend even two sizes are enough. That's size 4 and size 8. And trust me, you can create entire painting with those minute details with just these two brushes. I actually mean it, just these two brushes. And when it comes to poster colors or gouache, I like the Princeton brush series, their heritage series, which I'm using right now. And I like the Camlin synthetic brush series. That's the gold synthetic brush. They are quite good. They are flat brushes, which I used for the first layer, these ones. Okay. And even the Princeton heritage series is perfectly, great for adding details for watercolors as well as gouache. Now, for the third layer of mountain, I have picked up the yellow ochre color directly without any color mix or anything. And I will begin applying it in the third mountain range. Now, my yellow ochre color actually is not that opaque. So that's the reason, it's very light as compared to the other colors, and it does not stay that opaque. That's because of color now I can't help, but still I try to use it in a lot thick consistency to get an opaque look to the color. So I'll quickly paint this area with the yellow ochre color, trying to have I mean, this kind technique that we are using, I do not have to keep feeding between layers, and you see, I'm able to paint it all together. Now for the next layer, I'm picking up some burnt sienna color. Trying to get a right consistency of the paint. And now this fourth layer of fountain here, I'll paint it completely with the burnt sienna color. If you do not have burnt sienna, you can use any shade of brown that you want, but make sure that it's different from this second layer, such that the color stands out differently. Otherwise, here it will look as a merging between both the colors. It's very fun to create these abstract landscapes, and they are quite easy to follow. Plus, they are, a beautiful piece to hang on to the walls. Usually for gouache, people prefer hot pressed paper because it has a very smooth grain. But these cold pressed paper, which has been launched by Zen Sangam, they actually have a very little, grainy texture to it, which actually adds a lot of beauty to your painting once it's completely dried. Then what it comes onto a naturally hot pressed paper, because hot pressed paper completely smooth, no texture, and the effect after drying, it does not have any texture look. But here, if you can see the fine texture that it is having, so the grain of the paper, I guess, here, can you see the grain of the paper? Okay, it's not too much grainy, and it's easier for the color to bleed in. So you can see after drying, the painting has such a good texture. Can you see? So that's the best thing I liked about these papers, their texture. Despite being cold press, it's not too textured or too grainy that it becomes difficult to actually paint. Because for gouache, if the texture is too grainy, it will be very difficult for you to spread the paints. So always people prefer smooth surfaces. Now for the next color here, I'll mix in a little bit of my Prussian blue with a tint of black to get a grayish blue tone. So very little of black and more of blue. To this, I will just pick up this little lighter tone. Okay, so this tone that I had here, and I'll just add it to this to get in a little pastel variation to this. So you see, just by adding a little tint, how it has turned its color into a pastel bluish gray color. So this is the first tone of color that I'll apply to my second last mountain range here. Now, if you noticed, I have been painting all the smaller mountain ranges with just one brush without juggling between brushes. And that is what I mean when, investing into good brushes. Your time of juggling between different brushes should be minimized so that you can get the good effect that you want, because many a times it happens that juggling between brushes spoils your artwork, because either some area which was not supposed to get dried gets dried quickly while you are juggling, and some areas where it's difficult to get the effect with the same brush, and you need some detailing in between, and shifting the brushes actually adds in a lot of time to your process of painting. Now I just added a little tint of black again to this to darken this shade, and I'll paint the last layer of mountain with this. It's almost near to a black color, but still not a black color. It's the darkest shade of blue, or like an indigo sort of a color. So you see, you can easily form even the indigo color on your own without having it directly into your palette. I'm done adding all the layers. Now, before adding the final details, I have to wait for all of these layers to dry. Till then, I will just prepare a little more mix of this darker color, because I will be needing it to add these cactus details. If any of you have any queries, you can continue dropping them into the chat section. Those were from the brand Silver Black Velvet. That's the brand name. Silver Black Velvet. They are round series 3000S. Okay, this range here, I think it was too much watery before, so it's not having a good opaque look. So I'll again layer down this color. So you see, gouache being opaque and being a forgiving medium, you can very easily correct your mistakes. Again, layer down there, or paint the surface again. So now it's looking opaque, and I was able to cover up my mistake just so easily with an opaque color consistency. So if you have any questions till we wait for this to dry, you can drop it into the chat section. Now, till this dries, what I will do is I will tilt my paper and I will just draw a small circle here for the moon. So I'll just use this cap of a bottle and I will draw a full moon. It's more towards the right side of the paper. Always make sure whenever you give in any pencil markings, you don't give it too dark, otherwise they will be visible. And once you apply water onto this pencil marks, they become permanent and then it's very difficult to hide them actually. Did you mix any color to Prussian blue? Yes, I mixed in a little bit of black to my Prussian blue to get an indigo color. And for this layer, that was the second last layer, I added in very little of black to the Prussian blue and a tint of the flesh tint color that we had. If you do not have any flesh tint color left on your palette, you can simply add in a very small tinge of white to it. I know people may feel actually that what difference will that little tinge of white or a lighter shade make? But trust me, it makes a difference. Even a little tinge, it makes a difference. And it gives you a completely new color altogether. So for tonal variations, whether it's gouache or watercolor, you can always use white to get different lighter shades and black to get in different darker shades. Now, till all of these layers dry, I cannot add in these cactus details, but this layer is dried, so I can paint in the moon. For the moon, I will be picking up the burnt sienna color and I will add in a little to this lighter mix that I have here. I need very little of it, not much. I'm using my same Princeton Heritage size 3 round brush to add the moon also. Okay. Now, so that's what I said, when your paper is movable, it's very easy to tilt it and make it at your convenience and add it. If I had kept it straight, it would be very difficult for me to, move my hand freely. Now, first onto the edges, I will lay down the color very, patiently so that I do not ruin the round shape. If you are someone who's not confident about adding this easily, you can use an even smaller brush. Just give an outline first, then fill the inside. Be very careful while adding this moon. The only reason that you do not ruin the circle shape. And you can see I could so easily add such an opaque layer onto the layer below without reactivating that layer and having an opaque look for the second layer that I added itself. Also, what I meant by adding, gradations to your paint using white. So here, if you remember, when I created the flesh tint color, okay, this shade, this darker shade, I had a little less of white and I wanted to make it more lighter. So I simply just added a lot more of white here and you could see a different tonal variation I could get. And here, this was with less white. So that is what I mean. You can simply vary your color, get a completely different tone by just varying the amount of black and white into the color to get different gray tones, pastel tones, nude shades. And trust me, with this one set of 15 colors, because it has two white tubs actually, so it basically has 15 colors. With these 15 colors, you can create endless number of color possibilities. And even in this, if you notice, I just used two colors directly from the palette. That was the burnt sienna and the yellow ochre shade. Apart from that, all colors I actually formed using the other color mixes. Now I have this indigo color here and my my right side has dried. So I'll begin adding those cactus looks. Important thing here again, wait for the layers to dry completely. If you are someone who needs a pencil sketch for these cactus also, I would recommend here is the reference. You can easily have a pencil sketch first, but I am someone who wishes to add these details directly. The major reason of this being, if I add a pencil sketch and say my brush is unable to follow the exact movement of the pencil sketch that I have formed, then it will become very difficult for me to hide those pencil sketch. And then to either hide those pencil sketch, I will have to keep, adjusting the shape of my cactus. Somewhere it will go thicker, somewhere thinner, and that will be very difficult to control. So that's the reason adding these tiny details, I prefer not adding the pencil sketch so that I'm not binded by the movement, or if I go wrong, it becomes difficult to hide those pencil movements. I have added black and blue in the last layer also. It's an indigo color, not a black color. So here you can see it's not a black color direct, it's an indigo color. Okay, so now I'll begin adding the cactus from the left side. Here is your reference. So I'll first add in the center or stem of the cactus. So I'm still using my size 3 round brush. So now when I said this has a pointed tip, this is how it will come to use now. So at the top, I want to begin with a finer area. So I use the tip. As I'm moving downwards, you can see I'm pressing my brush, okay, giving it a twist. And as I reach here, I lift it up because here I need the thicker end. So with this one brush only, I was able to get in one stroke this different shape. Same way here, I'll begin with the thinner stroke, press the belly of my brush and lift it up. Now, in between all of these, I'll add in the smaller details. Now, very fine thorns coming out from this cactus. So because my brush has a pointed tip, I'm able to add these thorns also. If your brush does not have a pointed tip, add all the bigger details first, then switch to a very fine detailer brush at the end and add these finer details. Another one here. What color used for the moon? I used in the shade of burnt sienna mixed with a little bit of the flesh tint color that was onto my palette. If you want, you can, and if you do not have the flesh tint color left, you can directly use the burnt sienna color in its own color form and paint it in the moon, or you can even use the yellow ochre color, whichever you wish to. Now, even for the cactus, you can surely change the placements of the thorns or the cactus hands coming out, as I have also altered from the main reference. Now I'll paint the large cactus here and then I'll add these finer details at the end. So this large cactus is into the top layer also. So beginning from here, so I begin with the thin stem. As I'm moving downwards, I'll begin to press the belly of my brush and get a thicker thorn. And here I lift it up. Now I'll add the other hands to this cactus. The most important thing here is the consistency, because if you will not have the perfect flowy consistency, the paints will not spread easily onto the next layer and they will give you a tough time to add the layer in this opaque look that I have been able to add. Now, just adding those teeny mini thorns. Very randomly, I'm placing these tiny thorns. You can surely, as I said, change the placements. And one last small cactus here. This medium is so much fun, and especially painting patterns with this medium is absolutely a therapy, and it's completely relaxing. Maybe abstract patterns like these or any kind of a similar moving pattern. It's fun because of the layering, because of the forgiving medium that it is. Now just a very rough cactus here. So you can see I have just been using this one brush since a long time, and I have been able to add in all the details so easily. Now these thorny looks that I have to add, I will tilt my paper so that it's easier, and I will try to show you the movement that I use. So first I'll actually show it to you on a rough sheet so that it's easier for you to follow. So how I will be adding this is, I need the top area so thin. You can see here, it's so thin at the top, and as it reaches down, it's broadening. Okay, so I begin with the very thin stem here, and I quickly try to lift it up like this. So again, thin, press, lift, thin, press, lift. So this way, when I keep adding it in a bunch, it will begin to form that shape. Okay, so I'll try to form a small shape here and show it to you. Thin, press, quickly lift. Thin stroke, press a little, lift. Thin stroke, press a little, lift. Now, as I'm moving in the shape, I'm altering the heights also. Okay, then in between these also, you can keep adding these strokes like this. So this will give you a complete bunch when you place it all together. For the cactus also, I'm using the same indigo mix that we used in the last layer. So I'll begin with the center one first so that I know where, what size is to be going. Okay, so I began with a thin stem. As I was moving downwards, I just broadened it. So it's in the shape of a semicircle. So as I'm moving downwards, you can see I am making the strokes smaller. Take it very patiently, one stroke at a time. Now on the right side also, as I'm moving downwards, I'm reducing the length of the strokes. Now in between, very randomly, I'll just add in some strokes. Okay, so I was able to form the first thorny effect here and a small one here. So very small one this side. Okay, and we are done with our painting. We need to wait for this to dry completely. Only then we can remove the masking tape, because anywhere, if while removing the masking tape, you happen to, stamp your hand or anything, the painting will be spoiled. So till this dries, I'll quickly show you one of the things. Say if you did not wanted to add these cactus, you could have added in some leaves also. So for painting leaves with this, I add a stem first. Now to paint these leaves, I begin like this with a very small stem to the leaf. I press my brush, you can see, and I lift it up. So these are one stroke leaves. I'll take it a little closer so that you can actually feel the movement of my brush. Okay. Now, I begin with the smaller stem, press the belly of my brush, and I lift it up. So whichever direction you want to move it into, you can move accordingly. So say if I want a downward facing leaf, I will move my brush, that is pressing my brush in that angle only to get the leaf. Also, with this same one brush, I can get multiple different sizes of the leaves. So that is again, see, I press it so much till the length that I want. So here, if I want such a big leaf, I can easily press it till such a long area and then release it. Say if I want very finer leaves, quickly lift it up. So I can get multiple leaves with one brush and try to vary the angles. So now say if I want a leaf moving upwards, so I begin from the bottom, I press the belly of my brush. Okay. So this was from the right angle that I tried to show facing downwards. And if you want a leaf going upward, you move your brush in the upward direction and you lift it up. So it's basically everything onto your brush movement that you have to control in which angle you want to take it. So here, if I want to add in a leaf facing upwards, I began from the top, and as I reach downwards, I lift it up. Now onto this leaf only, say if I need a overlapping leaf, so I begin here. And adding these leaf pattern with gouache is completely therapeutic and it's fun. So here also you can see. So easily you can create such lovely patterns with leaves. And here I am using just one color to depict this entire thing. You can use multiple color variations of green, dark green, light green. But if you're using multiple colors, you need to wait for each layer to dry because otherwise the colors will merge with each other and will not, retain the different color shades that you try to add in. So very simply, I'm adding in this leaf. So you could make someone's someone's audio is running. Could you please mute it? So you could create a bunch of these leaves in different variations that you want. Not necessary that it be the same. And instead of those cactus, you could add in this variation of leaves here at the bottom area in different heights. So maybe one leaf like this. Then you could add in a bunch of 3 to 4 leaves, or maybe just simply popping out from the mountain feel like this. So adding variation to the foreground would be completely your choice. Okay, very easily you can create these leaf pattern with a little practice of the brush movement, how you move it, in which angle you want to drop the brush. You could even add in a single leaf cluster like this. So just simple leaf, just using the tip of my brush and trying to vary some leaves in between like this. Now I'll just add in some facing upwards. So for these kind of leaves also, the important thing is again your brush movement, how you try to control it. Okay. So instead, if you do not want to go ahead with the cactus thing, or if you want to try some different variation with the same background, these leaves are a must try and they are my favorite. And using the same brush strokes, I have added in the leaves in this one here. Okay. So it's completely your choice. Now my painting is completely dried and I'll remove the masking tape to see how our clean edged painting looks like. Now, again, some important rules while removing the masking tape. Always remove the masking tape at an angle from your paper so that you do not tear off your paper. Otherwise, if it's not removed at the correct angle, your paper will tear off. So I'm giving you a closer view of the first tape that we had applied here. Okay. So when I remove my paper, my masking tape, my masking tape is being removed at an angle from my paper. So this is almost a 45-degree angle, if you can notice. So I'm removing it in the opposite direction. Do not try to remove it in the direction where your paper is. So say if I try to again remove it from here, I am again risking my paper because from here, my paper can get teared off. But from this angle, there is nothing to get teared off. And I'm being very careful in removing it. So like this, okay. If you are not careful, either the paper may tear off at times, and that may it may tear off, taking off a little part of your painting. So be very careful. Always remove it like this at an angle. So here, if you notice again, I'm not removing it near to the paper. I'm removing it opposite from the paper like this. So for this one also, now this time, the blank space for the masking tape is on the right side, and on the left side, I have the paper. So I'm applying it, removing it from the left side. Also, if you feel that your paper tears off or if it does not support masking tape easily, then what you can do is, while removing the masking tape, you can first run some hair dryer around the masking tape. So that loosens the gum of the masking tape and makes the removing of this much easier. So I have been able to remove the masking tape easily. And now I will quickly remove it from this pad here. So while removing it from the pad also, be careful of pulling it very carefully. Otherwise, at times, at times it may happen that because if the glue is stuck too hard, it may actually tear off your painting again. So we are ready with our easy, fun, abstract landscape with gouache. I hope you guys enjoyed painting this and were able to understand this medium a little at least and get insights about what this medium is, how it works. Okay, my Insta ID is Creating from the Heart. I'll just write it down here. So this is my Insta ID, Creating from the Heart. Okay, I'll just add a quick recap of everything that we learned. The first and foremost important thing that we began with, understanding the consistency of gouache. Here, the consistency was perfect. The paints spread smoothly. Here, the consistency was not right, because of which I was having a lot of difficulty in, spreading the paint for an even layer. Then we began with understanding the blending techniques. So there were three kinds of blending that I discussed. In first one, the orange was overpowering the yellow. In the second one, the yellow was overpowering the orange. So here I began blending from the top to the bottom, and here from the bottom to the top. The third one was a gradient blending, wherein I placed in white gouache in between and I began to blend. In this also, you can choose from which end you want to begin blending, depending which gradient you want overpowering onto which one. Then we began and tried to understand the different layerings. So here, now this is completely dried and you can see the yellow has merged with the blue color and given a green tone. Whereas here, the yellow is opaque and it retains its color property. So these were the layering technique that we learned. This was the wrong kind of layering that we learned. That is, if your background is too wet, this one, if your background is too wet, okay, then the color begins to spread. It does not retain its shape. And when it's perfectly dried, you can retain the shape. Then we learned the layering light on dark, dark on light, which is possible in gouache and not possible in watercolors. We tried to understand a little difference. Then we also saw how we easily reactivated this color by just using water, and we could again lift the color or reactivate the color to make any changes. Here also we could easily add in layer on layer using a lighter green tone. Then we moved to understanding the two kinds of layering that can be used or adding details. One, wherein we began leaving white caps and painted layer back to back without waiting for any layers to dry. And the other one, wherein we kept waiting for the first layer to dry, then add the second layer. And when I tried to add in, when my layer was still wet, you can see I could not get an opaque look of the lighter color. The brown color reacted and formed and merged into a different color here altogether. Then we moved ahead to our final painting for today. Okay, we used a mix of both the technique. So the background mountains, I painted using this technique, and all the details, that's the moon and these cactus look, I added using this technique. And then I showed you a variation of what you could use in your foreground. If you do not want to go ahead with these thorns and cactus, you can add in the variation of these leaves in different angles and how to paint these leaves. So this was all what we learned today.